Whatever you're using, if it's habitual, if you're addicted, you need medical support to either taper safely or to detox safely.
I loved the outpatient because day treatment, it's like watching a flower bloom, become a little bit more physically stable, a little bit more emotionally stable. Now it's like Doc said, time to go out and return to work.
You're never going to find joy out there. It's not out there. It's right here.
Hey everybody, welcome to the promo episode here we got going on. New studio, sitting here with the Doc, Terry Sellers. Me and him have been doing this for a while now.
2 weeks.
How long is it?
2 weeks.
Two weeks. I think we started, when was COVID? COVID was like 2022?
2020.
2020.
Never forget.
2020. Yeah, we started this in 2020. Man, it's been 5 years.
Wow. That's
5 years. I put up with you for 5 years now.
So you're almost like my wife now.
I'm your podcast wife. You better believe it. We also have a guest here in studio, a sponsor, one of our sponsors, a good buddy of both of ours, Jordan Burningham. Here he joins us. Jordan, welcome.
Just glad to be here. Hope to be here for foreseeable future with you guys. I had such a good time that first time. I think I've maybe persuaded to come on more often.
Yeah, if you pay us enough, you can come on.
Yeah, those friendship fees keep going up every damn week, though.
Well,
I know that's how important we are, Jordan.
we got you at a low rate, and then we keep ranking it up,
jacking them up.
Yep, it's addictive to be on here. So you guys just snookered me in, and here I am.
We have fun with it. That's good.
Jordan's a guest, but really he's kind of becoming like another co-host here with us, which we love. He brings a lot of good content and a lot of good perspective, and just a breath of fresh air. You've been a breath of fresh air to this podcast, so we appreciate that.
But he stinks.
By the way, I was wondering last podcast, like I started dripping out of the armpits, and I started, I was like, I can't smell the armpit on air. That's not cool.
It's nice and cool in this place.
Yeah, this does feel nice.
This is nice.
Hey, real quick, we want to show our sponsors some love. Just so you guys know, this episode is brought to you by Diamond Detox. Let Diamond Detox be the first step on your path to hope, help, and healing. Call their toll-free confidential number at 385-988-5332 or visit their website at diamonddetox.com. We really appreciate them sponsoring this podcast. This episode is also brought to us by Rise Up Supplements. Rise Up Supplements is a nootropic supplement line aimed at optimizing brain function and supporting mental health. They have two powerful blends. Mindful Mood helps decrease anxiety. Mind Shift helps increase focus and optimize brain function. If you're interested in trying some premium nootropics, check out the website. It's riseupsups.com. That's RISEUPS.com. We appreciate them sponsoring this podcast. Okay, well, here we are, gentlemen. What do we? Both of you are like millennials on your phones right now.
I'm making notes, and so is he.
I'm actually typing up a patient note for somebody that needs it.
I'm on podcast notes. I'm trying to get some podcast ideas.
I'm typing up a patient note.
You're
for somebody
helping
that needs,
people. I'm brainstorming
today, so I got to get it sent off.
That's amazing.
Now.
He's doing a UR right now. Do you believe that? That's amazing.
I just sent it off.
I'm just happy that Terry's doing documentation these days. I've heard some stories.
Whoever that UR is for, you are blessed.
You should see this note. It's like 9 miles long.
I saw it. I wasn't creeping to see the name because there's HIPAA. But
so Terry, talk to us.
Look how long that note is.
Wow.
Look how long
that's a copy and paste. Someone else wrote that for you.
AI.
No, the AI wrote it for me.
Yeah, for sure.
It does all the work. It's incredible.
I showed him AI.
Yeah,
got the documentation fixed.
AI is amazing. I can't wait. I'm planning on having every department in our detox facility, in our organization, start using AI.
I'm going to tell you, this program I've got is unbelievable because I can have an hour-long conversation with somebody. It can be 35 minutes of BS about basketball, and it won't record any of that. And as soon as I say something medical, it records it. It's unbelievable. It's really been good.
That's awesome.
Made my notes way better.
Well, and frankly, you're just doing notes, which is...
Well, yeah, it's good. If I turn in a note, that's already way better.
Oh, man.
I can tell you the couple thoughts I came up with.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Go ahead. I also had some thoughts, but let's hear your thoughts.
Well, I'd like to hear yours first.
I didn't know either of you thought.
So everybody's sitting in...
This guy.
This guy. He's keeping it going from the golf earlier today.
Yeah.
He's the king of crap talk right now, I think.
Yeah, you guys have never seen me talk that much crap, have you?
It was so fun, though. I loved your mood.
I had such a good time.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are there's three of us sitting around this table. We all kind of come at recovery, treatment, however you want to say it, in a different perspective, right? I'm a clinical guy, also do interventions, crisis calls, community support. Terry?
I'm a physician, board certified in addiction medicine. So I really don't do therapy. I'm not a psychiatrist per se. I'm just a board certified addiction medicine doctor, which is, in some ways better, but in some ways not as good. I don't do therapy. I don't do, psychoanalysis. I don't do any of that stuff, but I really take care of the medical problems mostly. And now the other thing is, though, we also all three come at this from one perspective, and that is we're all three in recovery. So it's interesting. Yeah. Sorry if I stole that.
You beat me to the punch, but that's
if
okay.
Took that away from you.
And Jordan?
And then Jordan.
I was going to say all three of us come from the perspective we all want to help people.
Absolutely.
That's where I thought you're going with that. And I come from, a treatment ownership perspective, but also kind of a holistic approach that likes to use the medical, the clinical, the nutritional, all the components to really treat someone as a whole. And I love doing that. So.
And I think that for all the things that you said, people helping people, we're all passionate about helping people. Like the doc said, we all are people. We're all individuals in long-term recovery ourselves. I think for this episode, kind of what I was thinking is, taking a look at if we get that phone call, whether it's from a family member or whether it's from somebody who is looking for some help, what are some of the important things from the different perspectives that we all have in getting that individual stabilized, kind of on the path of recovery, if you would? What ideas did you have, Jordan? I'm open to hearing yours too.
Well, now I don't know which path to go. Are we asking about what we do to help someone get on the path to recovery if someone calls us, or is that the topic we're going to go with, or you want to hear about my topics?
Yeah, I want to hear about your topics.
My topics were, we had Tyson on earlier, right?
Yeah.
And when he was talking, I heard him, really talking about, some really good things. And it's interesting that people have like a snapshot judgment of other people, right? And I think Tyson's one of those that maybe I had and others do. And I just kind of want to talk about how quickly sometimes we judge people, especially in this industry. We like to gossip. We like to judge people sometimes a little too much, I think, from what I see. And so I wanted to put that out there that maybe you get to know someone on more of a personal level before you make a judgment about them, right? Because a lot of us hear things about somebody, or you see them at an external event. And a lot of us, the topic I was talking about is that representative, the mask sometimes. And I've been posting on Facebook. I don't know if you've seen it.
Mask on, mask off.
Mask on, mask off. I've started to see that and call myself out in a social media platform to kind of see what it looks like. And it's so apparent to me as like an hour or two goes through an event. Maybe that's just me because I'm just starting to warm up to be myself and more authentic these days. Because I've been hiding a little bit more because of that pedestal an owner gets put into and put on. But I show myself, just start to warm up to situations and be like, this is me, my representative, my mask on, where I'm just kind of uncomfortable in my own skin a little bit still. Then I show another picture through that event where I'm like, I'm acclimating, I'm getting a little more comfortable. And then you see me like just fully authentic on that third picture. And I've shown that a couple times on social media. And it's kind of fun. And so to get to know someone more authentically before you judge them.
Well said. Yeah, well said.
So.
Nah.
Snapshot.
I'm just going to judge. Based on what they look like. I don't care about anything else.
And you probably don't even care if people judge you either, right? It's just like whatever. People are going to do that.
I'm probably a lot more fragile in my feelings than you know.
That's fair.
I put out a front that I don't really care about, but I do. Like, I care what people think about me, and I probably too much, honestly. But
I do too. I'm glad you said that because I feel like I care too much still what people think.
I want to be liked.
Yeah.
I would like to say that I don't care a ton about what other people think about me. But again, that could also be
That's
like,
cool because you're a jerk.
Listen, part of, I think, okay, here we go. Yes. I think getting to know somebody authentically is important. One of the things that I've really worked on lately is, when I hear other people talk about other people, I wait until I have an experience that I can speak on. Otherwise, like, I don't join in. Right. So if John Paul is over there and you guys have an experience with John Paul and I don't know him, I can acknowledge in my brain, like, I don't really have an experience, but I can also just
Validate.
allow that you guys are sharing your experience. Does that make sense? Because we all have our perceptions. And I think that when you get to know somebody authentically, you gain perspective over perception. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we had that conversation the other day.
Yeah.
Right. And I loved that when you said that, because it's so true that perspective and perception can be totally different, and your reality can be shifted. And if you're open to a different perspective, and I love that. I feel like maybe I do that too much, but I think it's good. I love getting different perspectives to create my own reality based on multiple different people that I trust perspectives.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I like it. I also was going to say too, to, Terry's point, I think everybody wants to be liked. In fact, one of the things that psychologically that we learn about is people attribute being ostracized to death. Right? In the subconscious, like, if you feel like you're an outcast, or you feel like you're ostracized, or you feel like you're not a part of, somewhere in the brain that basically kind of relates to or correlates to like a death, a type of social death. And so we all have that a little bit. One of the things I would say that I've been trying to work on in the last couple years is caring less about what other people think of me, because I can't control that. And when I care less, I become myself more. It's a paradoxical thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Try not to let what other people's perception is skew how you feel about yourself.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. That's important too.
And
we
like,
try that. It's easier said than done.
Sure.
For perfect example, we were golfing the other day. Somebody came along and kind of joined us, and they fell back a little bit. And I'm like, let's just go, bro. Like
I cared too much.
You were like, no, I don't. Right. Because you're a genuinely pretty nice guy. And for me, it's like, yeah, like he's going to feel or think of whatever he's going to think. But like, that's
might be better for everyone if we do go forward.
Yeah. I remember several years ago, I was talking about an individual, and a really wise guy said to me, he said, Jared, what that person thinks of you is none of your business. That wise guy was Dr. Terry Sellers.
It's none of your business. Yeah.
Easier said than done again.
But it's true, though.
Yeah, for sure.
It's always true. It is hard not to care about what other people think of you, but it's also none of your damn business what they think of you.
It's beautiful.
They get to think of you what they want to, and how they think of you is skewed by their
lens.
life that they've lived so far, and it has nothing to do with you, really, because what they think of you has very little to do with you and a lot more to do with
them. 100%.
Yeah.
Well, let's get back to your idea. I really liked it. I was ready to go full board at you saying, like, what would we do? What are some things we would say to someone who reaches out for help to get into recovery? I think that's great.
And also, I think basically kind of talking about the different levels of care and what the goals are in those levels of care, because people, like, we know this industry very well. Somebody who's listening to this might not know it at all. Right. They maybe see like a movie, and it's like, oh, you go to a residential for 30 days and that's treatment.
Go to rehab.
Yep.
Right.
And you're cured at the end.
Hopefully most people don't think that these days.
So kick us off.
Some people do.
Kick us
well,
off, Jay.
I think for
you
me,
take those calls in Detox.
I do still take some calls, and it's weird because nowadays, much less than I used to, when people reach out to me, personal or otherwise, I'm still like, here's my admissions team's contact, because I try to not take those personal cases because it's draining on me. I have other things I need to be working on. I definitely want to help anyone who reaches out. Don't hesitate. I'll get you the help. But I don't personally take it on as much, and I try to, stay out of that personal stuff as much as possible because I care a lot. But I think, and it'd be great to have a medical perspective too. For me, it really is figuring out where they're at. What are they using, how much they're using, and how quickly they need to get in, and how urgent their situation is. And mostly it's, you need medical support usually when you're getting into recovery, because whatever you're using, if it's habitual, if you're addicted, you need medical support to either taper safely or to detox safely. So that's the first step, is helping people understand, like, you need some help. Doing it on your own is not super safe. And so have a physician there to manage the care, and have nursing staff typically in a detox situation 24/7 to manage your symptoms. And then once you've got that stabilization to where we feel like you're safe now for the next step, now let's get you into what's best for you in your situation. Do you have the tools from treatment already? Or do you need the tools and to break the habits with a residential? And I think residential, unfortunately, in this industry, the insurance and industry are trying to do away with it a lot. Don't you guys feel that way? The last 5 years, it's just insurance doesn't want to pay for more than 15 days of res. And if you're going to do res, 15 days doesn't really change your habits.
Doesn't do anything.
100%.
It's almost nothing.
It's almost pointless.
You don't even have the drugs and alcohol out of your system at 15 days. You're not even starting to think clearly at 15 days.
And you haven't changed any of your habits,
Right.
your thinking habits, your behavioral habits.
Right.
And so if you don't get 40 days scientifically, you're really not going to change any habits. And so, can you get a good outpatient program and a good case management, a good clinical team, a good therapist to help you change those habits at home? Maybe.
For sure. I'm going to pause you real quick, because you're going in the direction I want to flow in, but I want to slow it down for a sec. I want to, Doc, you got a guy who's coming in, whatever. Talk to us about what is the scariest things to come off of, right? And what is the importance of getting stabilized biomedically before anything else matters?
Here's the thing. The scariest things to come off of, from a medical perspective, are benzos and alcohol, because people have seizures. I have seen multiple seizures in my day. I watched a guy die from a seizure. It was a guy who decided he didn't want to tell us how much he was drinking and lied about it, and came in claiming he didn't need a taper and all that stuff. But so those are the most dangerous things. But here's the other part of it. Insurance companies use this all the time. Coming off of opiates doesn't kill people very often. Almost never, frankly.
You'll just wish you were dead.
That's the thing, though. If you don't pay for detox, I'm getting off on my insurance company kick again, but if detox is not paid for opiate patients, they will not come to treatment sometimes, because they know they can't live through the withdrawals.
And then they will die.
And
but without
they
getting,
stay out there and they die.
Without getting off on the tangent with the insurance
Okay,
thing, let's really tailor this message to the person struggling or their family members. Really drive home why the detox is so important, instead of just trying to do it at a cousin's house that lives out in the sticks. Because I hear that all the time, right? I got a buddy who just lives out in the middle of nowhere, and I think I'll just go out there and just, white knuckle it for a few days.
No. Well, that's a great point, because the two things, benzos and alcohol, benzodiazepines and alcohol, can kill you if you stop them cold turkey. And, I hear it all the time from people that are going to come off of that stuff is, well, I've never had a seizure before. Yeah, that's what everyone says before they have their first seizure. That's what every single person says before their first seizure. And so the fact that you haven't had one before, the more you drink, the greater your risk of having a seizure is. And so if you've not had one before, great. You weren't at as much risk before. You are at more risk now than you were every other time you've come off of benzos or alcohol.
And if you're a functioning alcoholic or addict, your internal organs, we don't know when they're just going to say enough.
We don't know that they're functioning that well. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
You're still holding down a job. Okay, that's what people call a functioning alcoholic. But we don't know what the internal organs are doing. You're right. We don't know how much damage has been done to the brain and the liver and that sort of stuff. And so, these things are important. To families of people that are on benzos and alcohol, doing it on your own is a terrible idea. You could lose your loved one from that.
Well
Now,
said.
the other detox is not quite as critical. Opiate addicts that don't detox it keeps them using because they're afraid of how sick they're going to be, and it's pretty sick, right? Cocaine addicts and meth addicts, all they do is sleep. It's not a terrible detox. They're tired for a while, and that one's not nearly as critical of a detox. What else we got? Kratom.
I was going to say,
Kratom's a big one these days.
with all the fentanyl that's getting cut into everything, though, if you're doing cocaine or if you're doing meth, you know, you're gonna. The meth ain't the same no more, man.
Well, it ain't even meth. Sometimes.
Right. I see people that come in and they're like detoxing from the methamphetamine, and they're like, man, why am I having tremors? And why am I getting shakes?
Diarrhea?
And you drug test them and you're like, dude, when you're coming up positive for fentanyl. And they're like, no, I don't touch that crap. I'm not one of those guys. And it's like, well, it's in whatever you're doing. Yep.
We've done podcasts on fentanyl and even carfentanyl and those sorts of things. And these days people are getting it. People are dying before they get addicted, which is just scary. They don't have time to get addicted because their first dose of it can kill them sometimes. That's how powerful this stuff is.
I don't want to tangent too much. Let's talk about vapes having fentanyl when we get a second. That's so scary, but let's stay on track.
Okay. I also just want to remind everybody, if what you heard from a board-certified medical addictionologist caught your attention, reach out to our sponsors, Diamond Detox. Again, that number is 385-988-5332. It really is it's crucial for your loved one to get biomedically stable before anything else is even important. You can't treat somebody, all the counseling in the world's no good if somebody goes into a seizure and has some kind of brain injury or heaven forbid death, right?
Or they're still using and they can't process.
Exactly. Okay, so then you talked about, you rolled us into, Jay, residential treatment. Terry, you also work in residential treatment.
I do, occasionally.
Is it safe to say if detox is don't die, aka physical stabilization, then what would residential treatment be?
New habits, routines, lifestyle changes.
I would say not even yet.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. You do need some other stuff maybe first. What would you say it is? What's the main thing for residential?
I think I'll go and then you can give us, your thoughts as well, Doc. From a clinical standpoint, I still think that it's physical and psychological stabilization, because a lot of people go through a physical detox in detox, and then they get to residential and they go through an emotional detox, right? They're starting to feel again. They're having to
learn how to live
anxiety.
without the drugs.
Yeah. And I think that's people. I hear a lot of residentials talk about, oh, we have this really great clinical program and we're doing EMDR and we're doing real deep trauma therapy and we're doing, psychodrama stuff. And I'm like, these people can't even walk and chew bubble gum yet. Like, how much cognitive are they picking up on all these very, very beautiful modalities? Let's get them out of bed. Like you said, maybe some different
healthy
routines. Right?
See how they manage.
Let's get them out of bed and teach them how to make their bed.
Yep.
Yeah. ADLs, average daily living stuff. Can they do a chore around the house? Can they make it to group therapy on time? Can they sit in a process group and remember what Jordan talked about to give Jordan feedback?
And have emotional regulation skills. And a lot of those different coping skills 100%. And life skills need to be implemented. And that's kind of what I meant by lifestyle, routines, new habits, but learning how to process that and do that consistently without freaking out.
Absolutely.
Without wanting to jet an AMA and AWOL. And that's a big part of residential for sure.
And a lot of therapists love working in residential because if your loved one or yourself or myself, any of us sitting around this table, when you come in, you're like a wet sponge. Just think of like washing your car. You're a dripping, suddy, wet sponge emotionally, right? And the goal is really to give you a good squeeze and to let all that come out and to really get all that stuff out. And so a lot of clinicians feel like they love that because they're like, I'm doing a great job. Look at how much Johnny's processing and getting out and working through the grievance and all the stuff, right? That magic isn't always the case once we get to some levels down the road. So from a clinical standpoint, that emotional detox is so important.
The team at Diamond Detox is compassionate, helpful, and trained to support every step of the healing journey. Your loved one's path to a healthier, happier life starts with a free and easy 20 to 30-minute assessment over the phone or a few questions submitted online on the Diamond Detox website. Assessments and admissions occur 7 days a week, depending on availability. To begin the path to recovery, visit diamonddetox.com or call 385-988-5332.
Hi, my name is Jim Huffman. I'm the founder and CEO of Wasatch Crest Treatment Services. We're located in Heber City, Utah, amongst the beautiful Wasatch Mountains. We offer a full continuum of care, and what that means is that, we can support our clients and their families from day one all the way through their entire recovery journey. Our goal here at Wasatch Crest is for this to be your last time in treatment and the beginning of a life in recovery that will bring you joy and fulfillment and a sense of healing to you and your family and to those who love you.
To learn more about Wasatch Crest, call me, Jared, directly at 385-644-1500 and check out the website at wasatchcresttreatment.com.
So we've made developing an app very affordable, and we do it really quick.
We are the only mobile app development company in the behavioral health space and the only constant throughout a client's entire life cycle, from pre-admissions to 10 years sober.
Now with new technology, we can develop a high-quality app in a fraction of the time. Now that we've done this with hundreds of partners all across the country, we can get this done within 6 weeks. An hour of your time is all it requires per week over that time, and just like that, your app's done. Developed on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store.
On the front end, we know we can help increase conversions. While the patient's with you, we work on retention and engagement, and moving on into post-treatment, we collect a lot of readmissions and referrals.
Get your agency an app. Give them a call at 866-824-2281 or visit their website at teamrecovery.io. Doc, what's going on with them physically while they're in residential?
Well, it's interesting because I think, people came up with this concept of residential being a certain amount of time, and I think that's really based on some things that are going on in the body. I mean, it really does take 30 days to get most drugs out of your system completely. Well, if you look at that, most of these drugs have a really severe effect on your brain, right? This is where they all work. And just getting them out of the brain is not the goal. Like that, I mean, you got to do that first, but you can't learn new stuff until that stuff's all gone out of your brain. And so I'm worried. I don't love the fact that, I don't know why I'm on this kick today, but insurance companies pay for 30 days. Well, that's the bare minimum that residential should be. The absolute 100% bare minimum. No one should ever go less than that. And most people should be in there for much longer than that, right? Now, we have some continuity of care where you can continue learning things and you can go to different levels of care that aren't residential. You can go to PHP, you can go to IOP, you can go to GOP, heck. But yeah, so the things that are going on in the body are the brain just barely starts to recover at the 30-day. It starts to heal at the 30-day mark. The first 30 days are just getting the stuff out of your brain, right? And then
You're still detoxing.
yeah, basically, right? For that first 30 days, you're not a detox can't be finished until it can't hardly start completely.
So there's an acute detox and then a
sure.
post-acute detox.
Yep.
We're talking about that post-acute.
Yep.
Sure.
Like they're out of the woods. They're not going to die
Right.
while in residential, but they're still detoxing.
Have you guys noticed too in residential, most of the time, large percentage of the time, they're still on a bunch of meds,
Oh,
right?
well,
They were on
sure.
controlled substances and detox to help taper,
Right.
but then they're on a bunch of meds still, often gabapentins and other ones that now we got to wean you off of these ones while in residential. And so you're still detoxing in residential a decent amount from medications and emotional detox and all that stuff. So it's just a critical time to have support there 24/7. That's why res is so important, and doing that outpatient, trying to taper off those things, having some withdrawal symptoms still, and having emotional dysregulation. I mean, you're asking for a relapse if you're not with supervision.
Thank you for mentioning my least favorite drug on the planet.
Gabapentin. I remember you saying that.
I hate that drug with a passion. It is. People think it's benign. It is now a controlled substance in Utah. It's been a controlled substance in multiple states for a long time. It's not a controlled substance in every state yet, but it's headed there, and it's just not a good drug for people with addiction. It's just a bad drug. The fights I get the most when I try to tell people they need to come off of medications, the fights I get the most are Adderall and gabapentin.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Everyone wants to hang on to their Adderall, and everyone wants to hang on to their gabapentin. That says something. That says something. Nobody ever fights me if I want to pull them off of their birth control pills. Nobody ever fights me if I want to take them off of
Blood pressure meds.
a blood pressure med. I don't get any fights with that stuff. It's tooth and nail with gabapentin and Adderall. Yeah. Those are the two worst ones.
So statistically, if you end your treatment there, if you just go to detox and then you go to residential, less than 5% chance of making it a year without putting a mind-altering substance in your body.
Yeah. Depending on what study, right?
Yeah.
I've seen less than 10% for sure. I like the statistics because it's easy math for me. It's like 7%. If you're 30-day, you do detox in a 30-day res, you have about a 7% success rate.
When I was in school, they told us it was
70.
like 4.5.
Yeah.
So, yeah, who knows, right? And
Less
again,
than 10.
like you said, yeah, I'm good with less than
I think
10.
those are reasonable numbers. It's true. Those are reasonable numbers.
But that's also why this industry gets a bad rap, is because people don't understand what we're talking about right now, the different levels of care. And that's why it's crucial for us to really talk about this and educate the listeners on what that really means. Because if you go to detox and you just go to residential and you don't do the natural progression step down to day treatment, intensive outpatient, general outpatient, alumni, you have a 90% chance of relapse. And then they come back and say, oh, this industry doesn't work.
So that's a point I want to talk about for just 1 second is, yes, okay, so that the numbers you quoted say two things to me. A, residential's not enough unless you can make it longer. And B, however, how horrible those numbers look, they're 10 times better than people that just make a decision and stay home.
Yep. Yeah.
It's less than 1% of people, if they make a decision and just decide I'm going to quit and they don't do anything else, those numbers are less than 1%. So at least you have a 10-fold increase with residential alone. Now, again, that's not enough. We don't want success rates of 10% or less.
How many people go to treatment? I had thought about this, but just on your thought a little bit, how many people go to treatment? And if it's only 8% or whatever, that's still probably hundreds of thousands of people, their lives are saved. It's a cool thought to think about too. I think about the other side. It's not good enough. I want to make it better. I want to improve the industry for sure and do some other things, but still saving a lot of lives at those numbers too. So next levels of care we talk about, right?
Leave
Detox,
it to
res.
Jordan Burningham to be the eternal optimist and Dr. Sellers. And I love it. And that's important too. Yeah. Very valid point. Let's acknowledge that the 10% that it works for, that's fantastic.
And people say those are dismal numbers, but that's not that out of line from other chronic diseases like high blood pressure and diabetes. And the other thing is, we also tend to measure success as a guy who doesn't touch alcohol for 365 days. If you have a guy that drank 365 days a year last year and he drank 4 times this year, why can't we call that success?
Right. It's like the diabetes, and some people don't like to relate diseases like that because they're very different. But yeah, if you have a guy with diabetes and they have a relapse on their, their blood sugar levels, 4 times that year, is that
of a year?
Yeah,
right.
That's
a
pretty
heck of a year.
good, right? If they didn't go over on their glucose levels, and it is a managed disease for sure. You got to manage it with different things. So
typically, I'm a big fan of the step down into day treatment because I think that for me, the goals are the same. It's physical and emotional stabilization. The difference is now you're outside
practical application.
Yes. Now you're outside of a 24-hour care facility. And the biggest factor is choice. Mm-hmm. Choice comes back into play.
Yep.
Right? If this thing's a disease, it's a disease of choice. Starts off for a lot of people, can start off as a choice. I can feel Terry wanting to come in on this, but that's what it is acknowledged as a disease of choice. Once you get into outpatient or you go back home or whatever that circumstance looks like, the choice factor comes back into play.
You're not impulsive anymore because you're not dependent. You're not addictive. You're not compulsively using anymore. You've got some choice back.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
well, I did want to come in, but it was because of a different reason than you think. Okay. One of the few drawbacks, I think, of residential treatment is you're learning things not in the environment where because what you do, if you only go to residential, right, you come and you get sequestered with a bunch of people that are trying to do the same thing, and you're not around the triggers that you have at home. There's no work. You're not working. You don't have job-related stress. You don't have family-related stressors. You don't have any of that stuff. And you learn new skills, and that's great. But you've got to be able to practice those and come back and report and process that stuff out in your environment, not just in the sterile environment of a residential. That's why there's such a great benefit of continued care, is now you get to go live at home and practice the stuff you just got taught in residential.
I loved being like a lot of clinicians like the residential because of the emotional sponge squeeze that they get. I loved the outpatient because day treatment, it's like watching a flower bloom. They've become a little bit more physically stable, a little bit more emotionally stable. Now it's like Doc said, time to go out and return to work or go look for a job, right? Now it's going back to that relationship that was a big part of why you started drinking or drugging in the first place. I would say the goal is, again, continued physical and emotional stabilization outside of a 24-hour
controlled environment.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So critical. And that to me was, with the full continuum we had at Diamond Street, the hardest for the patient to commit to was PHP, which was one of the most important, because, you kind of commit to residential as a family and financially and all that. And then you see this PHP level of care, which is, kind of like day treatment, You're there half the day now. But it's hard to have a job and do that. And so it's that like middle ground of, do I get a job, but then I have to work around the job schedule, but then treatment's supposed to be my priority. And so it's really hard for them to commit to at least a couple weeks of that, to practically apply those new skills. But it's so important. So families that might be listening, just kind of plan on that being part of the plan.
I think you got to work it back into I always personally, I would tell my clients, it's a mistake to return to work full time right now. Mm-hmm. Get a part-time job.
This is your job.
Yeah. Get a part-time job, ease back into it. Right. For a number of reasons, what's the biggest offender of relapse? Stress. Stress is one of the number one triggers. And relationships. I would say those are the two biggest in my experience. Stress and relationships. When you're an outpatient, you're going to experience stress. The job can be a big part of that. And you're going to experience the relationships because you're returning to the loved ones or the relationships that you were in before you came into services. So
now you get to practice those coping mechanisms that you were taught. And that's why I think, you really need that PHP time to apply those new skills, see what works. Because we can talk about meditation. I mean, we're talking about that at Diamond Tree. We can tell you how to do these things and what to do. But if you haven't applied them and had it work for your brain to feel like, okay, I got triggered, and then I tried to go on a walk, I tried to meditate, I tried to go work out, I tried to go talk to somebody about it. If it didn't work for me, right? You go to meditate after you get triggered and you just get more frustrated. Yeah. You do that on the outside, you're using.
Right.
Right. So, but inside the treatment center, if you're able to actually apply that skill and go for a walk and realize how you all became grounded, you regulated, and that worked for you. All right, write that one down. So you have a list of coping skills that work for you when you're triggered with stress on the outside. And then PHP, go get triggered, try that skill. And if it works for you and your brain gets to settle back down, you're doing it. You're living a life of recovery now, step by step, day by day.
Absolutely. You start to implement some of that stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that I think that day treatment is crucial for too is I have these conversations all the time is like to Doc's point, when you're in residential, you can't just drink Monsters and, have unlimited access to your nicotine and, they're typically feeding you. So you're on some type of pretty healthy, I would say for the most part, diet regimen. And then I see these clients that would come in and they're like, yeah, Jared, ever since I got out of res, man, my anxiety level is a 10 out of 10, man. And I'm like, okay, I noticed you walked in this morning with a, 40-ounce Monster, the biggest one that you could buy at Maverick, right? You're hitting your vape like 3 times as hard because you get a 15-minute break to use the bathroom or smoke or whatever in between sessions. And so you're out there going hard on the vape. What does your diet look like? I saw you come in this morning eating Pop-Tarts. That's probably not the most nutritional thing for you, but people don't always connect that. And so being able to have that conversation with somebody who's super early in recovery on their own of like, let's be mindful of how much caffeine you're intaking and when you're intaking it. Let's be mindful of how much nicotine you're getting all at one time. Let's be mindful of the things that we're eating. Is there a better, healthier option than maybe a Pop-Tart in the morning?
The blood sugar lulls for me when I was at Diamond Tree, again, doing groups, I notice it for myself. When I get hungry or if I eat really high glucose, fructose things and I start to dip, craving, that's when you crave sugar, crave food. In your brain, from your gut to your brain, that signal of a craving can get really misconstrued with an addict's brain. So when you crave something, all of a sudden I want to crave whatever will help me feel good.
Yeah.
And so
chasing the dopamine.
Chasing the dopamine, right? Because that's what the glucose is doing naturally for you. And so just making sure you have a balanced blood sugar is a big part of helping you stay balanced and in recovery.
Yeah.
No question.
What would you say medication-wise? Like what's important for somebody in day treatment that really helps them be successful long-term from a medical standpoint?
Well, there's a number of medication you're going to want to avoid, right? One of the things that really gets messed up with drugs and alcohol, one of the body functions that gets messed up the worst is sleep, obviously. People come out of treatment, people go into treatment, and they just don't sleep very well, right? Mm-hmm. And I think sleep is critical for healing of the brain. And so we want people to sleep well on the one hand. On the other hand, we want them to learn how to sleep on their own. Mm-hmm. If all you're doing is relying on meds to sleep, it's not that much better than being addicted. Now, obviously, when we use sleep meds in treatment, and we use a lot of them, we don't use addictive ones, so that's better, right? They're not the ones that release massive amounts of dopamine from your midbrain, but they're still meds that decrease the quality of your sleep. And so I think learning how to sleep is critical. And so that sometimes requires meds early on, and hopefully then patients can make the transition to wean off of those meds and learn how to sleep again. But that's just a critical thing and then avoiding anything that releases dopamine from your brain that is a medication, I think is critical. And too many people want to get off of alcohol and remain on Adderall, and it doesn't work very well. There are studies in the medical literature that show that if you remain on any addictive substance, that you have a greater chance of relapsing on your addictive substance than people who quit. The same is true with tobacco. People who quit tobacco at the same time they quit alcohol stay sober longer. Mm-hmm. And so you want to rigorously avoid people make the justification all the time, well, it's not my drug of choice. It's going to lead you back to your drug of choice. It makes you have a greater chance of going back to your drug of choice. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't afford to do that early on. I can't afford to do it now, but I for sure couldn't afford to keep putting addictive substances in my body, even if they weren't my addictive substances.
We're too fragile.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it. I just didn't want to. I was too busy trying to stay clean and sober, and I thought, I'm not an Adderall guy. Mm-hmm. But I refused. I do have ADHD, but I refused to take it just because I think it leads me back to morphine.
Yeah, for sure. So IOP.
Yeah, let's dig into IOP.
I love it, and you obviously have a passion for it too. But I think for me, what I believe it's really for is to maintain connection and accountability and to continue to process stressors and learn how to handle those stressors. But you have that, just like AA, which I think AA is so great. I'm not a 12-stepper personally, really. I've done it. But I think it is so awesome that it's like that free option that has a great success rate, and people should try it. Mm-hmm. And if everyone could benefit from 12 steps, anyone.
Absolutely.
So outside of that and maintaining connections and accountability with an AA group, your IOP group can continue to clinically support you and clinically connect you to a group and continue to clinically improve your emotional regulation, your cognitive distortions, your triggers, stinking thinking, all those things can continue to improve the way you think and behave. But really that connection and accountability long term.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I always say to the clients, listen, at this stage, it's maintenance. It's maintenance, right? Like we've gotten you to the point where physically you should be somewhat pretty stable, right? Like you're at least standing on your own 2 feet from a physical standpoint. Most of the time at that point, you're not making crazy changes from a medical perspective, or at least from my experience, and we'll get the doc's take on that in a minute. But most of the time, they're not making major adjustments in their medication. 100%, Jordan, it's maintenance. It's, okay, you're going to your job now full-time. You're back to being a dad full-time. You're back to whatever commitments that you have full-time. How well are you maintaining that? And then it's also, this isn't going to end, or this isn't going to go forever. This treatment thing is going to end one day. What are you doing now to make it so that when this ends, you're still okay? If you're relying on your peers in group, and that's the only social circles that you're circling in, you are setting yourself up for failure. You have to branch out. You have to swim in other pools, right? If you make those connections, you are far more likely. In the AA thing and the 12-step thing, the thing that I am a 12-stepper, and I would say one of the things that's the most important outside of the steps and the sponsor thing is that social connection. Mm-hmm. It's having a place to go where you can share with people who are not going to look at you crazy, mm-hmm. With some of the stuff that you've experienced, and they're going to understand and be compassionate and supportive so that you can do this long term.
I was going to interrupt you earlier with the takes a village. That's all. You saw me like coming in all aggressive. You're like, you got something? I was like, I'll wait till you finish. But it takes a village. It really does. Yeah. Whether your village is, you got family over here, you got your AA over here, you got your support group and your alumni group over here, you got your work family over here. It takes a village of people who hold you accountable to your responsibilities, and you rely on each other. You support each other. It takes a village, man.
What you got, Doc?
Nothing. I'm tired. I'm fading a tiny bit. I didn't get to bed till like 2 last night.
I feel you. This has been a long spring break for us too.
One of the very regular things when I'm working with an individual in the IOP level, and they've started and they've moved all the way through from residential day treatment, now they're in IOP, is they'll come in and I'll, we'll go through kind of their check-in, right? Their self-assessment worksheets, cravings, triggers, post-acute withdrawal symptoms, all the stuff. Are you medication compliant? All the checklist stuff. And then I'll say, what's been on your mind? What's been heavy on your heart? What do you want to, address today? And it's crazy because sometimes they look at me and go, I don't got nothing. Like life's starting to go pretty smooth. And they always say, I feel like, I don't have anything real deep for you. And I don't want to disappoint. This is what they're just telling me, right? Like, I don't want to disappoint you. I want you to feel like I'm still working a program. I just don't have much. And I always tell them, congratulations.
You're in recovery.
Like that's
the worst thing that could happen to you. Yeah.
That's great, dude.
Yeah. And it'll come. Life on life's terms, like no doubt. Enjoy the moments. And it's funny. You say that. And I had a therapist that worked at Diamond Tree, and he was really good. And he said, people get in trouble when they make the goal of life to be happy. He's like, the goal should be to be content, because you can enjoy the joy and you want to cope through the challenges, but like, we want to be here.
Absolutely.
And to be content is a beautiful thing. The older I get, the more like, I just want to be content. I just want to be chilling. on a beach. I don't need to be happy and joyous all the time, right? I want to be able to handle the challenges and grow from them. I want to face those and enjoy those challenges too a little bit because they help you grow, but to be content. And that guy was content, right?
But it's not, it can't be a goal because joy isn't something we go find. It's something today was fantastic. If you can't find joy in a day you play golf, then okay, you're never going to find joy out there. It's not out there. Mm-hmm. It's right here.
It's in the moments.
Yeah, it's all right here, and it's never something I want to
obtain.
I want to get to where I'm happy. I want to get to where I'm joyous. Okay, then wake up and be joyous and happy. That's all you got to do. It's not something down the road that's a goal to shoot for. It's something that you cultivate every single day. And there's going to be days that are hard, that are not as joyous. There's no question. But that doesn't have to stay that way. Pain is mandatory and suffering is optional. You don't have to suffer through life. We can enjoy every moment to the best of our abilities. Some of them will be really enjoyable and some will be less. But
choose your hard.
Yeah, don't aim for, when I finally get done with the residential, I'm going to be happy. No, you're not. You're going to be happy today, or you're not going to be happy when you get done with the residential.
If you can't find happiness in residential, you're not going to find it anywhere else.
Right.
Blake, can you put like a little star next to that? I feel like that was like a Terry Sellers golden moment, bro.
I've got probably 25 of those.
Right? Like, wasn't that just so? That was
I want
great.
to star yours. Will you repeat?
When you say golden moment, you mean where I lost my mind for a second?
Will you repeat for anyone listening what you check in with people in Outpatient? What are the checks you like? After I do this, and this, then I want to know what's heavy on you. What were those checkpoints? Because I thought those were really valuable.
Absolutely. So for those of you that don't know it, for a period of time, I was a clinical director, and as a part of that, like I kind of saw a program, and what we decided to do is, while clients were in residential, we would hand them once a week, they'd fill out what's called a self-assessment worksheet. And it's just a lot of questions on there, like what are your cravings? What are your triggers? Are you still experiencing like points when you disassociate, right? What are your post-acute withdrawal symptoms? Are you being medication compliant? What are you aware of the medications you're taking and why you're taking them, right? To just kind of gauge how much awareness do they have really of themselves, of the process, all that stuff. It asks them, have you obtained a sponsor? If you have obtained a sponsor, are you working with that sponsor on a certain step? It was really a 2-page piece of paper that had a lot of really good questions in there that would kind of let us clinically know, okay, first of all, how self-aware are they?
Mm-hmm. And then how ready?
Yeah. And number 2, like how willing are they, and are they doing the different things? And typically what you'd see is at the start of residential, and then when you get an outpatient, once you hit IOP, it was every other week. Right. And so it's all just starting off very intense and then kind of weaning you off. And so also when you hit IOP, you're not seeing me once a week. In residential, you're seeing me twice a week. Day treatment, you're seeing me once a week. In IOP, you're seeing me once a month, once every other week, whatever we decide that you need to do. Right. So those are all very important. And you usually see higher numbers towards the end of residential, and then they start to come down, whether that's cravings, triggers, post-acute withdrawal symptoms. Then you hit day treatment and they spike again because it's new, it's stress, it's returning to reality. And then they start to kind of come down again. That also lets us know clinically, are they ready to step down? You don't fall asleep on me there, Doc.
Pretty close, man. Pretty close.
So why do you ask?
I just think it's important for families and people out there that are, maybe in an outpatient situation, or if looking for some additional support, be mindful and be aware of those things. Am I having triggers? Am I having any withdrawal symptoms coming up? All those things are really important to stay aware of and be mindful of, so you can take action. And more importantly, we used to do, and I want to do this on one of the podcasts, I would love to do a recipe for success card.
Let's get it.
I loved doing that with the patients and had them in the sober living.
Include mushrooms and Any other ingredients like that?
Onion, peppers.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Not mushrooms. Sorry,
That recipe was not the right recipe, Doc.
You looking for a spiritual experience, Doc?
I didn't actually. I don't know why mushrooms was the one I picked because I really was thinking of cooking up something.
But yeah, that card really helped people, identify what triggers can happen, but what's your top coping mechanism for your physical, mental, social, and spiritual situations. And to have those things written on a card for people was so beneficial that they'd have a card in their wallet, on their dash, wherever it was. Because when you get triggered, that's what's so hard. People don't realize when you're triggered out there and stressed and hungry and tired, you don't remember all your coping strategies.
Right. The halt: hungry, angry, lonely, tired. My halt also has 2 H's. The first one's horny. Horny, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Yeah,
and stressed.
Sure.
Halts.
All those create.
Yeah. All those can trigger you. And if you're not
Schalt.
Schalt.
You went halt, so I went Schalt.
Yeah, that's fine.
I put the stress on the front.
But it's so important to either be able to call someone like a sponsor or someone or a therapist to help you when you're in that state.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that, you better have your own recipe for success card so you can read it and be like, oh yeah,
I think one of the things you guys got into that we were hitting on when I was talking, because we were talking medical when I was talking about, the acute withdrawal happens in residential. When you get out into the PHP and the IOP,
Pause.
now you're starting into post-acute withdrawal stuff.
Yep.
And it's characterized by, and so the medical definition is acute withdrawal is from drinking, using, whatever, until all of the substance is out of your body. That's acute withdrawal.
Fatty tissue.
And that's when post-acute withdrawal starts, is when all of the stuff's out of your body. And that's when your body can actually start to heal. But that healing is characterized by restlessness, irritability, discontent, all the things that people say about post-acute withdrawal. It's not the most glorious of times sometimes, and you do have to make a choice to understand what's going on and then enjoy it. It's okay. Yeah, you're a little irritable, but guess what? When you get pulled over, the worst thing that can happen to you, if you're clean and sober, is you might get a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
You're not going to jail. You're not going to
And we could do a deep dive into that one day, because I would love to talk about what happens in post-acute withdrawal symptoms with the hedonic set point, right? And getting your frontal cortex to come back online. And I know we've done something similar to that, but I would love that to do a topic around that.
I love that. Hedonic is valuable.
Because people are like, am I going to feel like this forever? And the answer is no. Mm-hmm. No, you're not. This
absolutely.
Is post-acute withdrawals. Mm-hmm. Eventually your hedonic set point's going to come back down. And we're talking real woody scientific stuff here, but it would be cool to do a deep dive in that. Mm-hmm. The last, and we'll kind of wrap it up here, the last level of care, so Doc doesn't fall asleep right here on the table, is...
I'm asleep.
He's catnapping a few times.
GOP, general outpatient, or alumni. And I always tell... There he is. He's gone. He's gone. He's off. I always tell clients, when you're in GOP or you're in alumni, it's time to give back. You're at the point now to start giving back, right? Take people who are early in the program under your wing. If you know of good job connections, if you know of a sponsor that's looking for sponsees, if you know of a bus route system, whatever resources, whatever experience, strength, and hope that you have accumulated during the time that you are in this process we call recovery, it's now your job to give it to somebody else.
That's the circle of recovery / circle of life thing, right? I used to go to AA meetings to find the guy that had what I wanted. I want to be like that guy. And at this point, after you put some time together, you need to be that guy.
100%.
You need to show up and set an example for people who are newcomers. I show up to AA meetings still for newcomers, because I like watching them walk through the door and looking at the scared look on their face, and also remembering that I'm like one dumb decision away from being that guy.
100%.
But I also think they need me to show up to show them that 22 years sober, you can still do the thing, and you don't have to. I mean, it's still worth it at 22 years out.
For sure. And outside of AA rooms, if I could too, you still find the guy you want to be, right? That's 100%. What happened with me is I found business owners in a healthcare integrated wellness that I thought they were pretty great guys. They had a healthy lifestyle. They were successful. And I started emulating what habits and hobbies and things they were doing and learned how to do that. And that's what changed my life for the better. And then I was blessed to learn the nutritional things and the aminos and the structural things. It's like, okay, well, my back pain was a core thing. All right, well, let's get that fixed, right? Then the nutritional things, the microbiome. Okay, if I can eat the right way, I can feel better. So I don't have the cravings and the lulls in energy and the hard time sleeping because I was eating better, right? And then the habits and routines, then I felt more confident because I was exercising because I didn't have that pain. It's like, man, I felt this whole new life just by imitating these doctors that I was working for. And it changed my life for the better. And I loved it.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, that old saying, show me your 5 closest friends and I'll show you your projection in life, right?
You're the average sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most.
I love it. So that's so thank you, listeners. You know, whether it's you and you have questions, you've never been to treatment before and you kind of just want to understand how it all works. That's our best recommendations. That's our experience with it. If you're listening to this for a family member and again, you're thinking, hey, they really need help. They're on the verge of something tragic, reach out to us, let us know how we can help. I would love to set up an intervention and get them into a detox. And we all do this, I would say predominantly because we're passionate about it and we want to help.
You know what I just got the chills about?
Let's get it.
I'm throwing this out there. It'd be really cool. And this is listeners, this is just me off the cuff here, to have a text hotline for this podcast. We could have somebody help with that. But if we had like a text line or something, like a Google text line that we shared and people reached out for help, we could get them in the right direction.
I have a direct number. It's funny you say that. Next week, I'm going to be rolling out a direct number to me.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
So that, again, just a way for them to reach out and get in touch with us, get some interaction. If you have a story of recovery and you'd love to come on and share it, we want to hear from you. Like, I'm always looking for good guests. We've been doing this 160 something episodes, and Doc, I think you'd agree, like, we want to be doing 160 more.
I love the thing. I love what we're doing. It's a lot of fun. And part of the problem is of course, we do the podcast from St. George, and you have brought on almost every person in recovery you've ever met in St. George, right? It's not Salt Lake. It doesn't have quite the giant recovery community that a city like Salt Lake would. And so, yeah, man, if somebody wants to come on the podcast, text us. We'd love to have them.
And I'm going to help Jared too. I told him, because I will help financially with resources with people up north to get them down here. And I've got a different set of people too.
You know people that we don't know, right?
Yeah. So we'll have a whole new, fresh group.
It's a little harder because, I have a bunch of friends that are in recovery in Utah County, but to get them down here just for a podcast is a little more difficult. And if there's resources there and we can pay for a hotel room for them, like outright, then okay, that's different.
That's what we're doing.
I think if we bring on a couple of the sponsors that we're getting ready to roll out, we would have the resources to do the hotel room and all that stuff, especially with the Hilton still
podcasts get bigger and better.
I got to share something with you here, Jared, and then we'll wrap it up. I don't want to go too long here. It's been a long day, man. We played 18 holes of golf
in 2 podcasts.
Yeah, at Black Desert.
Who won? Nobody.
We all did, man. We all did.
It was awesome. That was such a fun day.
Everybody won.
I got to share this with you, Jared. A moment of gratitude. Me and Doc have been rocking this thing like we talked about for 5 years. And before you were on, I actually, when the producer told me, hey, I think I'm taking some time off, I actually told him, I said, I think I'm done with the podcast. Like I wasn't as...
enthusiastic.
Yeah, I wasn't as enthusiastic about it anymore, and I'd kind of lost that fire. And man, ever since you came on in your episode and you've kind of stepped in and really brought the energy and the light and the life, like breath of fresh air, bro. And the friendship that we've kind of started to foster since, like, I just can't thank you enough, because it really is, it's kind of like that recovery principle, right? Like when you start burning out and fading out, like, sometimes having another human being step in and help out, it's been huge. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much.
It's gonna make me cry over here
for everything you bring, man.
I appreciate that. No, I'm excited. I've had dreams and passions about that and the supplements. So I think we're going to do some really cool things together. And Doc's just freaking fun to hang out with. You're so lucky to have him. And to have a medical opinion on here is so valuable.
I do think that sets us apart from some other podcasts.
He's a funny freaker too,
I'm
though.
a weird dude.
Like we say, we want to show you what successful recovery can look like. And I think all three of us sitting around this table are
Hey,
successful.
I will say it
examples.
again. I've wanted to say it last. My life is not always in recovery, like I say all the time. Like, I get tired, I get overworked, I don't eat well, I don't drink well, I don't do all the things well all the time. But I can show the example of the beautiful things that come from living in recovery and choosing not to use drugs and alcohol, you know. And it can be beautiful and it can be messy, and you can grow so much more. And I used to tell the clients all the time, if you can handle the lulls without using a substance, you get to enjoy the highs without the substance. But if you're using, you just kind of stay here and you stay stagnant. You don't grow.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Any other last thoughts, Doc, before we call this a...
I'm going to tell you that I've had a lot of fun with the podcast. I hope we keep doing it for 20 more years and getting to talk to new people and hear new stories and maybe educate a few people along the way.
Absolutely. Okay, well, that wraps it up for this edition of We Do Recover with Jared Miller. Appreciate you guys listening. Again, if you or your loved one needs help, don't hesitate on reaching out. We'll talk to you or catch us next time.